Okay, so yesterday I listened to Chapter 6 of Project Horizons, which is Play. And I'm gonna go ahead and say this now. If this video goes in the direction that I expect it to go in and that my notes are going in, this is probably gonna be pretty fucking long. Maybe it won't, but I feel like it's gonna be pretty long, and I think it's also gonna be pretty fucking heavy. So I just kind of want to go ahead and get that out of the way. Looking at Play, I had mentioned in Chapter 5, which was Work, that I think it's probably my favorite chapter so far, but it's not going to hold that title for very long, because Play is one of my favorite chapters of Project Horizons. And there were two big reasons for that. Number one is, I remember how much I love the atmosphere in this chapter. I genuinely don't remember how many other chapters of Project Horizons genuinely feel like horror. There are definitely some, set pieces and locations that are horror adjacent, as here's a bunch of big scary fuck off monsters, but I don't remember Hippocratic feeling like horror necessarily. With Blackjack exploding every time she takes a step, I'm I don't know, this is kind of funny. And I remember it being almost more like a mystery and slowly figuring out more about Sanguine, all the shit with Whisper, finding out about Discord and Flux. Hightower, while it is full of weird monsters and shit, in a way is almost kind of similar when you're finding out more about Doof and his backstory. To be fair though, I think we know quite a bit about it by that point, and confirmation of what Project Eternity is. It also very much feels like an action chapter. It's this is Hightower kind of feels like Resident Evil 4. It's maybe horror adjacent, but it's very action heavy. And I thought of another... and I guess 64 and I guess 77. When you're in the core and all the weird fucky shit there, it's kind of almost horror, but again, from what I remember, it felt more like a cool, crazy action chapter, especially with how powerful Blackjack is at that point, where she's a fucking robo-god. Yeah, it's not that she's invincible, but good luck fucking killing her. The story has killed her multiple times at that point. You know that thing from Ice Age? Did you die? Sadly, yes. But I lived. No, that, literally happens to Blackjack several times. It's actually, I think, kind of bullshit. But this, while those other chapters are maybe kind of horror-ish, this is the only chapter I remember being straight up pure horror. You're in an abandoned hospital, you're hearing kids giggling and scuttling around, there's happy kids music playing in the background while the word play is written in blood on the walls, and there's these grotesque monuments to violence and gore just everywhere. Oh, it's a tea party, and their hooves are nailed to the fucking table. Oh, look, that guy's completely skinned, and it just says, Mr. Needle is my friend, and then there's someone else that it just says, I don't want to play anymore. Oh my fuck. It's great! I love the atmosphere, and for years, I genuinely didn't remember most of the moment-to-moment details. There's a bit in the chapter where Blackjack's hey, come on out! And then a fucking severed head just rolls down the hallway. That's fucked. That's beautiful. I love fucked up shit like that. We're reading a horror chapter. I want it to be like that. I think there's definitely times when Project Horizons is overly violent, and it's that's a bit much. I give Play a pass. A lot of for just how creatively fucked up it is, and again, it's the horror chapter. Now, granted, just because something is horror doesn't mean it has to be bloody, like Silent Hill 2. But I really, really love this one. And rereading it and getting into those elements, yeah, there's a reason the vibe of this chapter has stuck with me for so long. The other reason the chapter is so memorable, and I think it's so good, is, of course, the ending, which we'll talk more about that when we really get into more of the weeds of the chapter. The overall sentiment I have after rereading Play I do think it is the best chapter so far. While I have my problems with it, like, I feel like there's more things in play that bother me than there are things in work in the previous chapters that bother me. I mean, okay, maybe not necessarily, because some of the other chapters, like, I've already talked about why I don't like Scoodle's death. Or I guess to rephrase it, Scoodle dying is like the plot to Shrek Forever After. I like what I get out of it, I like the impact that it has, but the setup to it, I think, sucks. It feels so wildly out of character for Blackjack at that point to act the way she did for the reason that she did. If literally all she said, she's like, guys, I got a pit book, it shows me when something's in the area, there's nothing here, we're fine. Like, I know you're saying don't do this, but you're just paranoid, it's fine. And like, okay, it was really stupid, but this is very much her ignorance coming to bite her rather than, hey, I know you're someone that I trust, and I know I told you in the last chapter, you seem to know what's right, and I kind of want to use you as my conscience, and you also saved my life at the end of the next chapter, which makes this, like, really cool, but fuck you, you don't get to tell me what to do. I hate that. I think it takes a moment that should be amazing and have this great impact on the character, and it does, but I'm also like, this is bullshit, and the way it's written, it shouldn't have happened, and it takes me out of it. Play does have some moments like that, but I think the rest of it is genuinely so good, I feel more forgiving, at least in a vacuum. I think the best way I can surmise the chapter is this. Play is what happens when Project Horizons lives and dies on its own merits, for better and for worse. There's no comparisons to Little Pip. Like, there's a couple mentions of the original story just because they mention homage and, you know, the DJ giving her nicknames and shit, but aside from that, like, it's its own thing. There's no mention of Little Pip. There's no, like, okay, this is the lore of the original story, but let me tell you what really happened. There's a memory orb, but it does not feel like that at all as far as I'm concerned. And there's no, like, hey, this is basically a plot point or set piece that happened in the original story. Let me try to do it, but let me try to do it better. It's original recipe, and I think the chef fucking cooked. Maybe there's a weird taste here or an ingredient on the plate I didn't quite care for, but the main course fucking delivered. So, getting into the basic plot of the chapter. So, we show up to the hospital, we meet some ponies from the Society and the Collegiate who we've heard about before, and they're at odds over who gets to explore the castle. I believe the Collegiate was there first, like, look, we just want to research and learn shit, have this information. The Society's like, hey, our king is dying, and there might be something in here that can save his life. And we're the descendants of the monarchy, so we should be ruling. Kind of kindly please fuck off and let us have this. Yeah, that's like, that happens, and Blackjack's crew, very quick pin in that, but her crew is like, okay, we're a neutral party. They hired us to get rid of the squatters, that's you, but we're not gonna just do what they say. Tell you what, let us explore, see what we can find. If we can find something to help the king, we will give them that. If we can just give you guys a bunch of information and shit, we'll give you that. We want everyone to leave happy, no fighting, no shooting each other. Gucci, Gucci. Let me take the pin out real quick. So, I've said this a couple times in these videos. Blackjack's crew doesn't have a name. They don't have a title. They're never given one in the story. Blackjack herself is given a nickname. She is Security. And for years, I've just referred to them as the crew, or I guess Blackjack's crew, and I'm like, I like it, but I want to give them an actual name, because every other fucking faction in Huffington has a name, and I like a lot of them, like the Reapers, the Half-Hearts, the, what is this? I think, yeah, they're just the Zodiac. I mean, that's still cool, like, I like that, like, I like a lot of these. The Harbingers. I remember not really caring for the Harbingers as a whole, but as a name, it kind of fucks. I'm like, alright, what do I want to call them? So, Blackjack is Security, so it should be something security themed. You know, I don't want to just call them like Security and Co. Like, that sounds kind of shitty. Do I want to call them like the Guards? Nah, that doesn't have a good ring to me. Okay, do I want to call them like the Cops? That's almost funny, but no, I don't really fuck with that. Let's see. So I was like, all right, what are some good other words for like someone who works security? Yeah, guards, no. Keeper, that's already like, I like it, but that's already a group. Finders, keepers. What about a watchman? Well, there's already watcher, and like they're not associated with watcher, so I don't think that works. And then I found it. Sentinel. I kind of like that. You know, what is a sentinel? A sentinel is someone who, like, sits and watches and stands guard, and kind of what security does. So, I think that's what I'm going to be calling them going forward. Blackjack and her crew, I'm going to be referring to as the Sentinels. Kind of fuck with that. So, the Sentinels go into the hospital to explore, see what we can find. Hopefully every pony leaves happy, and then playtime. So, I just wrote some of the shit that, like, some of the weird shit that happened in the chapter. Some of it I already talked about. Like, hey, come out! Rolls ahead. The tea party, Mr. Needles. There's this one scene when Blackjack sees this pony, but the skin is, like, sewn onto the body, and it's a robot body with these glowing eyes. Like, I wanted to be a unicorn. Can I be you? And then the fucking face opens up and these tendrils come out. I'm like, fuck, this thing is so cool. There's the giant robot playing red light, green light, and that is so fucking cool. I'm like, this is amazing. This is so fun. And then when Blackjack's like, okay, we're playing tag. You're it. Come catch me, bitch. That's fun as fuck. The music, it's like hush now, quiet now. At one point they start playing the Pony Pokey, and Blackjack's like, wait, I think I know this. So she starts singing along, and then at one point, like, starts fucking with the she's like, all right. I don't remember exactly what she said, but it's something along the lines of like, you load a bullet in, you take a bullet out, and shit. She's like going around with her shotgun, and it's like, it's this kind of shit that makes me love Blackjack. This is really fun. This is really funny. This is cool. Like, I enjoy it so much. We got that. Yeah, like, there's dolls hanging from the ceiling. There's a stuffed animal that's, like, strapped to a chair. I think its belly was slit open. It's great. It's fucking rules. Poor Morning Glory is not doing well seeing all this shit. Like, there's just this bit when Blackjack's like, damn, where the fuck did they get all the red paint from? And Glory and P21 just look at each other like, oh, she hasn't figured it out yet? No, I guess not. Like, you want to tell her? No. Do you want to tell her? No. What do you mean? Blackjack, that's not paint. Oh, fuck. Like, Glory is not doing well, and there's a point during red light, green light where they make it through a door, but the door closes before Glory can get there. And Blackjack immediately assumes that Glory is dead. And to be fair, in context, that's maybe not, or like, it is incorrect. I can't fault Blackjack for thinking this thing was on our asses and like shooting us with beam blasts. Glory is probably dead. We're going to talk about that later. We're going to talk about Blackjack's blackjackiness a bit later. But, I even put in my notes in bold, pin in that. A memory orb does get used for the first time when, like, Blackjack's playing tag. Just, they throw a memory orb at her. She tries to catch it, and then she goes into it. And I'll talk about the memory orb a bit later in the big picture moments, because there's a couple things to say there. When Blackjack comes to, she's on a table, her gut is like cut open, there's a mechanical hand just pulling her guts out. Glory survived and sneaks in, P21 sneaks in, and the three of them team up and are able to like stop the shit, and Blackjack's like, oh, I have to literally hold my guts in as I'm walking, and wow, this is fucked. And this is one of the things I was talking about where I'm like, I I have some problems with play because I've always thought this was bullshit. I remember the first time I read it, I was like, this is like a perfect chapter. It's so good, it's so good, it's so good. Okay, what the fuck was this? She has her belly slit open and is literally holding her intestines. How is she not? I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not like a medical expert, so maybe this is actually feasible. How the fuck is she not in shock and not passed out? She is able to walk, talk, think coherently, formulate a plan, and execute it while holding her guts. I don't buy this. She's not a cyborg yet. Like, Robo Alicorn Blackjack, as I call her, I could buy that. Cyborg Blackjack? Even then, maybe, probably not, because it's just her legs that are mechanical, but I don't know. She's not full flesh and blood, so maybe there's enough bullshit, but not really. This is pure flesh and blood. Like, Blank Blackjack, I could maybe believe that, because, like, hey, I don't know exactly how blank physiology works. Maybe you're able to be a little bit tougher and tank more hits. This is some bullshit. If that's happening, she should pass out. She should probably be dead. I get why it happens, because Blackjack needs to take enough damage that the healing talisman is used. So that way it doesn't fix P21's leg, and it's not used like to save King Awesome because he still dies. We have that whole arc in Part 4, which I remember really fucking loving. But it's to a degree where I'm like, I don't buy this. There's the part of me that's like, I don't want to say realistic, because yeah, this is magical pastel-colored talking horses using a gun. It's not realistic, but it doesn't feel realistic for the world that you've created. I think it's bullshit. Does it ruin the chapter? No. But it's like come on. Really? This is kind of dumb. And like I said, they use the talisman to heal her. P21 doesn't get his leg healed, which is fine by him, and he's even kind of like, oh, you were going to use that? You wanted to use that on me? Like, I guess I appreciate that, but why? Well, I was hoping that if I healed you, like, you'd feel better, and maybe you'd hate me less, and you wouldn't think of 99, like, I wouldn't remind you of 99, and we could be friends. Okay, it's not that I don't appreciate the sentiment, Blackjack, but not everything is about you. Like, I've got other issues and trauma from 99 besides just you. You're a big part of it. But, like, I appreciate it, but I would not be free of 99 with just that happening. And that, I think, is a very important line where he says to her, not everything is about you. I got like a whole page of notes just about Blackjack's character, because of course I do from this chapter, but we'll get to that when we get to that. And of course, we have to talk about the ending. Blackjack, Morning Glory, and P21 singing the Hush Now, Quiet Now lullaby as they euthanize the 40 foals. And real quick note about that, Blackjack specifically says, like, when she's strapped and she's seeing all the, like, stasis pods, she says, I counted at least 40. So, it sounds like there might have been even more, but as far as I'm concerned, I'm only putting 40 on the count and on her individual count as well. Also, just a weird thing with the kill count in this chapter. So, like I said, there's, like, the robot with the pony skin, like, sewn onto it. And there's a point where Blackjack, like, sees multiple of them, but we don't get a number. My assumption is that there's, at least 40, one for everyone in stasis. And that skin had to come from somewhere. So my assumption is that's an additional 40 kills I can put on the count. Maybe it doesn't quite add up that way, but that's how I'm interpreting it. Again, like, of course, those 40 are not on Blackjacks. It's just the kids, but I thought I would go ahead and clear that up before I get into the count while I'm on the subject of killing 40 kids. So while we're on the subject of killing 40 kids, I think this is one of, if not the most iconic moments of the story. There are a lot of scenes in Project Horizons that have really stuck with me. Like, there have been a few that I remember just because this is a story that clearly left a lasting impact on me. And I generally have a pretty good memory with stuff like that, so there's a lot of shit that's just kind of in here. For me, the moments that I remember and have, like, really stuck: Scootle getting ripped in half, the kids, gassing 99, P21 standing in front of Blackjack when she's going nuts at near the end of battle and her almost killing him. I'm trying to do these in order, but I may have already missed some. The ending of Black. Here, I actually wrote some of these down. Blackjack not killing Dawn. Actually, a scene before that is Calamity saying to Homage, "Really makes you miss party time mentals, huh?" But that one's not for a good reason. Blackjack not killing Dawn, also not for a good reason. The drip, drip, drip from chapter 69 for just how graphic that was. Like, oh, that's nasty. And Glory's death, but not quite death. For me, those are the really, like, these have stuck with me iconic moments. This is arguably the top of the list. And I don't know if I've really interacted with other people who have read Project Horizons, so I don't know if they would agree or disagree with this moment being here, but I'd be kind of surprised if they didn't. I talked in the last chapter about how when Blackjack says, "Oh, killing bugs! I could do that. There's no problem with that. There is no moral ambiguity about killing bugs." I'm like, Blackjack, here's my problem, though. I don't feel like your story thus far and your actions have been morally ambiguous. It's the fact that your morality is so inconsistent that I'm not sure what it is. Like, what happened to Scootle is not moral ambiguity. That was, as I've called it, malicious stupidity. Like, I don't think it's quite worked in that regard. This is a moment that I think is truly morally ambiguous, because as the story points out, and I do agree with it, there is no right answer here. The question is not, do we kill them or not? The question is, what's more cruel? Is it more cruel to let them stay alive? Because they've been alive for like 2 centuries in these pods. They have been alive, but they haven't been able to live. It's not like they're in maybe they kind of are, like they're in their own like little fantasy world where they can do shit, but I don't think so. Like, they're just here and they can't do anything. And even though they're physically like 6, 10, somewhere around there, mentally they're several hundred years old and haven't been able to fucking move. Yeah, it would kind of make them go insane. And if we keep them alive, maybe, just maybe, we can save them. Because the reason they're in stasis is because they're all terminally ill. And if we wake them up, they are all going to die. Maybe not immediately, but they will die. No one thinks it's humane to just do that. It is either we kill them now, swiftly and humanely, or let them live on the hope that someday someone could save them, which hasn't happened for the past 200 years, because even the people who put them in stasis did not think it was going to last nearly this long. And even then, they thought it was fucked up. Alternatively, we can humanely put them to sleep. We are also killing 40 kids if we do that. Now, they have mentally grown up-ish, so maybe they're not children, but they are still children. What is the right answer? And genuinely, I don't think there is one. And I think to me, it's why this scene works as well as it does. It's not just like, oh man, Blackjack killed a bunch of kids. This is interesting because, spoiler alert, Yellow River blows ass. I fucking hate it. It's because it's something Blackjack actually has to really think about. There's arguments for both sides, and she makes a decision, and she has to live with that. Either way. While they all decide, if we're doing this, let's at least sing them a lullaby. It's beautiful, it's fucked, it's tragic. When I say this chapter is Project Horizon's living and dying on its own merits for better or for worse, this moment right here is for the better. Then after that, the chapter ends with Blackjack finding the body of Nurse Redheart holding a Fluttershy figure, and she takes the Fluttershy figure that says, "Be kind." And she just starts crying. Well, she was already crying when she did the thing, and now she like really can't hold it back. She's like, I'm sorry. I'm trying to be better. You know, just like a couple days ago, I was like, I need to be better. I need to do better. I need to keep people safe. I don't want someone else to die on my watch. And I just put down 40 people, and they were fucking kids. I'm not better, and I'm trying, and I'm sorry. And I think it's a really good ending of this chapter. Then you get the footnote, the like level up perk, and her perk is like, hey, you're really good with kids now. Kids really trust you. And I'm like, okay. Given what just happened, this is darkly hilarious. Like, that is some, like, gallows humor. Knowing what happens later at Yellow River, like, oh. Is that why the kids, like, were shooting back? Why she was able to take out so many of them because she's good with kids and they trust her. Oh, yickety yikes, that's fucked. But that's the events that happen. I'm already at like 30 minutes. I haven't even started talking about Blackjack yet. Like I said, this might get kind of long. So in reading this chapter, there's a couple aspects of Blackjack's character that really stood out to me. I just kind of wanted to talk about for a bit. The first is, I guess I'll kind of say what they both are. One of them is Blackjack just being a fucking horn dog. The other is Blackjack's depression. So getting into the horn dog shit first. Blackjack interacting with Prince Splendid, and like she's just like lusting all over. She's like, damn, like he looks so good. There's a point where she sees Glory come to save her, and she's like, I can't imagine a better sight than this. Like, even Prince Splendid coming out of the shower, I don't think could do that. And she's like trying to give him her best like debonair grin, and I don't know, I think it was like trying to do the DreamWorks face. Like, she's trying to grin, she's trying to rizz him up, and is also saying to herself, realizing it, I kind of have no game because I spent all of my game in 99 trying to rizz up Midnight. Sorry, I just remember that one video. It's perfect. First I rizz your brother, then I rizz you. Skibbity, my friend. Like, I've been trying to get with Midnight and it hasn't fucking worked, so I think I'm actually terrible at this. Like, I'm horny all the time, but I don't get any. And that made me think. Now, I feel like I've talked about, again, from like the lucidity lens, why she's so like sex happy, why she like, because of what happened to her, sex is something that is always on her mind. So in her world, in her mind, it's been turned into something okay. Like, all right, if this is something I have to think about, let's at least make it positive. But even then, it's kind of interesting to me that in a way, it's still something to be avoided. And not because she's actively avoiding it until, like, what happens at the end of Black, But because, as she said, she's like, I don't really get a lot. And when I get in the mood, I guess I just go on to the breeding queue. But what was really interesting to me about it is something I remember them saying a lot in the latter parts of the story, is how sex is Blackjack's reset button. It's something that she does a lot. It's something that she needs. It's healthy for her. It's a release. And I compared that in chapter 1. It's like, it's kind of the same thing for Deus, and the fact that to me, like, he represents lust. He kind of represents the sexual assault. I think it's an interesting, comparison. Here's the thing, though. Because they tell you, like, the reason you're like this is because that's life in 99. In 99, you couldn't think about anything, but you would fuck, and then you'd be okay. And I'm like, but reading chapter 1, she's isolated. Like, she doesn't... the way I was reading it, the vibe I got is that Blackjack wants to have relationships with people. Like, actually wants to have friends and deep relationships, so no one will reciprocate that. But also, people are so either scared of her because she's security, or just like, dude, I just don't like you because you're an annoying idiot, that even then she doesn't really get much. Like, she can go onto the breeding queue, but my understanding is you can go on it whenever you want, but it doesn't mean you're gonna get it that day, because everyone is trying to get on the breeding queue. There's someone that she likes and has been very interested in, but that's never gone anywhere. She does mention, I believe in chapter 1, that duct tape is someone she's bumped flanks with. But the way the rest of this has been written, it makes it sound as if, like, okay, Blackjack has had, like, she's had sex, she's had these interactions, but it's not common. It's not as common as the later parts of the story would have you believe. And it's something I'm really going to think about when I get to those parts where, like, yeah, this is how, like, you are the way you are in terms of sex because that's how 99 is. I'm like, I feel like that's how 99 is, but it might not really be what Blackjack's upbringing in 99 was. Again, at least that's how it's felt to me rereading chapter 1, and even the way she's like, yeah, I gave him my best debonair smile, and I realized I actually don't have a lot of experience with that because it doesn't work for me. I'm like, oh, so, huh. Am I, like, misinterpreting it? Did the later parts of the story misremember Blackjack earlier? I don't know, but I thought I would bring it up. Was there anything else I really wanted to mention there? No, that's kind of all I wanted to mention with the horniness. So now we get to talk about Blackjack and her depression. There are a lot of aspects and elements to Blackjack's character. There is her just, like, goofy ass making jokes about things like, oh yeah, Glory, like, we decided to save your life after we flipped a coin. It took flipping a coin? No, I was making a joke. Like, her being funny, her being more relaxed. There's the really horny part of Blackjack. There's the, like, super badass. There's the, like, I have a duty, and my duty is to help people because security saves. But even though those are all parts of her character, and they are parts that I do remember, it's not what first comes to mind when I think of Blackjack. When I think of Blackjack, I think of a character... I want to say it. I think of someone who... How did I write it? This is how I wrote it, and it sounds really mean and fucked and callous, and that's why, like, I kind of hate it, but I need to really talk about it. The BJ I remember is the angsty, suicidal one who blames everything on herself to a degree too absurd to take seriously, and never stopped doing that to the detriment of the moments that needed it. Because here's the thing. The shit with the kids, I get it. This is a morally ambiguous situation. You are the tiebreaker. You are the one who pushed the button. I got no problem with this and the angst that is sure to come with it. The problem I have in this chapter, it's after, like I said, there's a pin in here, so let's take it out. It's after she thinks Glory is dead. It's her response. The response is, holy shit, this is just Scootle all over again. Like, yo, someone died because of me, because I fucked up, I'm the leader, I'm responsible, and she takes her shotgun, hands it to P21, it says, dude, just fucking kill me now, blow my brains out. What? What are you talking about, Blackjack? Hey, you said if someone dies on my watch and I'm responsible, you kill me? Kill me now, please do it, I don't deserve to live. No, that wasn't your fault. I'm the leader, you know, I'm the one who brought us here, like, it's on me. This isn't your fault. No, this is stupid. And then he also gets into like, look, Blackjack, I can't do this without you, like, I need you to be able to survive, so I'm not, like, don't make me do this. But I'm also just like, what? And I will admit, I get it. This is something I've talked about on the channel. I've been very open about it. I'm trying to be very open about it. I suffer from depression and anxiety too. But like, I do suffer from depression. I have had suicidal thoughts. I have taken suicidal actions. The way I can best describe it from my own personal experience. Once it's there, once those thoughts have formed, they kind of never go away. It's this looming specter that just waits, and it preys upon those moments of failure. It preys on those insecurities. It preys on your fears and anxieties. And it's just like, hey, what if instead you just did this? Wouldn't this be easier? Wouldn't this be better? A couple years ago, an acquaintance of mine took his own life. And a mutual friend who was closer to him than I was is the one who told me. Like, I think he sent a group text, or he had sent a specific text to a few people, and just kind of, the way he had phrased it was, this person, like, they lost the battle in their own head. And that's a phrase that has lived in my own head rent-free for a few years now, because I think it's kind of a perfect encapsulation of what that feels like. You are fighting this battle in your head. And it's maybe not every day that you're fighting it, because maybe some days that specter, it's there, but it kind of leaves you alone. But you fight it a lot. And after fight, after fight, after fight, after fight, after fight, there's some days where it's really easy to let your defenses drop and to let your defenses slip. And sometimes you're like, maybe that looming specter is onto something. And you know, sometimes it's the most minor shit that it pounces on. And you're like, I know I shouldn't think like this. I know I'm not this much of a failure. I know this isn't my fault. I know I'm overreacting, but I can't help it. Like, I get that. And as a bit of an aside, but you know, so relevant to Project Horizon, more like getting a little bit ahead of myself, it's why I love the dealer so much. To me, that is exactly what the dealer is. This is Blackjack's conscience. This is Blackjack's depression, her suicidal thoughts, and her conscience all rolled up into one, as literally this looming specter just sitting there dealing cards and shuffling cards like, hey, whose life do you want to gamble with now? Because they don't really mean anything to you. They're just cards. They're just chips. You know, you cash them in, and, you know, sometimes you gotta fold, sometimes you call, and it doesn't work. Sometimes you gotta ante the fuck up and keep doubling down. But it is what it is, Blackjack, right? I mean, why do their lives matter? What are they really worth? And as that representation, it's so cool, and it's so unique, and I think it makes so much sense. Which is why when the story later is like, actually, he's an actual dude, and this is his role in the plot, I'm like, this is not a horrible idea for this character to exist, but it shouldn't be the dealer. That is what the dealer is, like, in the lucidity lens, but also just, I think at face value, this is what he should have been anyways, because it's what he's presented as, and it's so fucking perfect. And from this perspective, I'm like, I understand why Blackjack is the way she is. However, from a narrative standpoint, personally, I find it really hard to root for a main character who is so quick to give up. And I find it hard to root for a main character who makes everything about them to this unhealthy amount and degree. As P21 said to her earlier, it's like, look, Blackjack, not everything's about you. He's like, no, like, yeah, you're the leader of the team. You didn't get Glory killed. We all willingly went to the hospital. You're the one who figured out the rules to red light, green light, and are kind of the reason we got as far as we did. This isn't on you. No, it is on me. It's my fault. You have to kill me. This is the second time in only 6 chapters that Blackjack has said, I want to die. I want to kill myself. Please kill me. When I look at what happens in 22, all the shit Blackjack has done, all the shit she has fought and persevered through, and then that happens, I get it. It's like I was saying earlier, you were fighting this battle in your head day after day after day after day after day. And sometimes, after fighting for so long, you just say, I don't want to fight anymore. To me, that's what the ending of 22 and the start of 23 are. And after all of that, I'm like, I understand, and I'm sorry, but I understand. But twice in the first 6 chapters, for me, like, this is way too soon to be giving up. I can't relate to giving up that quickly. And again, the fact that she's like, dude, okay, Glory died. I gotta kill myself. From the lucidity lens standpoint, I get it, because as I've been saying, to me, Scootle represents the death of Blackjack's innocence. And as she even describes Glory, young, traumatized, but still innocent, Glory is that part of her own innocence that she is trying to maintain and save. So failing to save Glory, and she, like, in the last 2 chapters has compared Glory to Scootle. Losing her innocence is like, I can't be saved, just go ahead and end me. The lucidity lens, this makes so much sense. But at face value, I'm like, no, what? This is your reaction to this? Not like, fuck, like, I fucked up. We need to get out of here. We need to, like, she doesn't even think, like, maybe we can save her. I have to know if I can save her. I have to do this. Or it's like, okay, I at least need to make sure I get P21 out of here. It's, nope, fuck, kill me now. I'm done. I have to go through 74 more chapters of this? And here's why it's a real problem for me. Blackjack overreacting like this with Glory to something that's not her fault and not her mistake, just shit that happens, for me, does because these moments add up. Like, the way she reacts to Scooter, I'm like, this is your fault, and you should be, like, pissed, but giving up so quickly just bothers me. I want to see you get better. I want to root for you, but when you give up so quickly, it makes it harder for me to root for you because I know you're not rooting for yourself. And fuck, I had something. Sorry, I lost my place a little bit. What I'm trying to say is, when you have moments like these, they start to add up, and it makes the moments that feel earned, when she's doubting herself, when she can't get up off the mattress, it makes those moments not, as I was kind of talking to Clay about it, Blackjack makes mountains out of a lot of molehills, so when you get to the actual mountains, it just feels like another molehill. That's why when I read 22 for the first time, I was like, Blackjack, I get it. You can angst, you can talk about this, you can think you're a fucking piece of shit, because this was bad, and this was personal, and this hurt. And like 2 paragraphs into 23, I was like, please shut the fuck up. Because you've done this after like everything. The moment at the end of play is powerful. And I know the next chapter starts with her being like, this is heavy. And that feels earned. But when you have those moments where like, oh shit, Glory died, I guess I need to kill myself, it makes it feel like this is how she reacts to like anything remotely bad. And it cheapens the moments that need to feel like this. And then there's the other moments in the story that feel like they're specifically designed to have these kinds of moments. And because they feel so manufactured, they feel less earned. It's why I hate Fallen Arch. Fallen Arch just feels like, hey, remember when she killed 40 kids and it was wild shit and morally ambiguous and it hurt? Yeah, it was like really effective. Yeah, so remember when she gassed 99 and it makes sense, like it's for the greater good, and she said, you know, if I'm gonna kill all of these people, like I don't deserve to live after this. And these are my people, this is my family, this is, I mean, I guess it's not really family anymore because Jin Rummy's already dead. It's like, this is the closest thing to family and friends that I have aside from the Sentinels. If 99's going, I gotta go with it. And she doesn't get the chance. You get that. It's effective. Fallen Arch is, hey, what's going on in this town? I don't know, probably something like shitty and sussy. Let's do it. And then they go in, and after a while, like, okay, something shitty and sussy. Let's do something here. Oh no, a bunch of people died. And, you know, if we didn't go into that town, yeah, there'd still be slaves, but all the slaves would be alive, and all the slavers would be alive. I don't know. Gee, I guess this is another fuck up. It feels so jank and shoddy. And again, I understand its significance for P21's character, because after not being able to save they are slaves, not being able to save the stallions and 99, he's like, I need to redeem myself for this. I need to save someone to prove that I can, because after the failure there, he tries to kill himself, and Blackjack doesn't let him do that. He's like, if I have to live, let me make my life worth living, and he fails. You could also see it as another suicide attempt. It's maybe both, and then he fails, and then in 31, he tries to have the other suicide attempt when Blackjack goes nuts, and he stands in front of her, and she pulls the trigger anyways. I think Fallen Arch is an attempt to make one of these moments, and it fails. Yellow River is just, there's no moral ambiguity, there's no, like, it's just, I made a mistake, I did something shitty. It's like, no, Blackjack, you did something fucking evil and irredeemable. I feel like when I get to that scene, I'm just gonna look at the rest of the story and say, you're a terrible person. Like, your morality at this point is, like I said, it's ambiguous and not in an interesting way. It's like, it makes no sense to me, but sure. That is just evil. After that, like, no, you don't come back from this one. This one, morally ambiguous. There is no right answer. 99, that's fucked. I think you saved a lot of people by doing that, but that, I get it. Fallen Arch was just weird jank shit. This is just bad. There is no moral ambiguity. There's no, well, there's the greater good. It's, look, I was having a bad day, and I kind of lost my shit, and there were some kids, and now there's no more kids. Blackjack, I know you say at the end of this chapter, like, I'm sorry, and I'm trying to get better. My frustration is I know you don't. And the moments when you do are shit like, well, I just finished my fight with Dawn, and I could kill her, but I'm not an executioner, so, you're fine, and look how good of a decision that was. This is why, when I think of Blackjack, I don't think of the horn dog. I don't think of the badass action hero. I don't think of the, I'm security and I have to save people. I don't think of the really, like, the fun character you want to go and have a drink with. I think of the piece of shit that does really bad things, sometimes for a good reason, sometimes you can kind of understand the situation, but after, like, anything goes, I'm an awful person, I need to get better, and keeps fucking up, and I have to keep reading this. Like, there's a good character here, and it's like, I even say, I get it, but I don't like it. And the way it's executed, I guess pun intended at this point, makes it less interesting and sympathetic and just insufferable. And that's really what I wanted to say about her. So, let's get into some of the, and again, I do want to go ahead and say, it's why I'm enjoying the lucidity lens so much. Where this is not at face value, this is all a character dealing with and living with and trying to, like, I guess, understand or make peace with their trauma and their understandable difficulty in doing so. Excuse me, I think Blackjack gets a lot more interesting and a lot more sympathetic. These moments where I'm like, I don't know about this, Chief. I'm like, I don't know, I maybe kind of get it now. And it's why I have to keep reading this. Because I've read it before. I think if in my newer mindset of like, dude, if I really don't like something, I can just drop it. I would have dropped Horizons a long time ago. But I can't do that now because it's too important to me to do that too. And this new mentality honestly makes it a lot better. But getting into the big picture moments, like I said, we get to meet Prince Splendid, who talks about his father dying, which sets up an arc later. Also, just kind of a neat thing to me. I'm like, okay, so there's 3 members of our party right now. Blackjack, P21, and Glory. 2 of our 3 party members actively want to fuck him. Blackjack's like, dude, he's hot, I want him. P21 is... I was going to say P21 is gay, but I'm like, I don't know if he actually is. He's primarily attracted... It's like he's attracted to men, and is like, I can't be attracted to females because of what's happened to me. There's maybe an argument that, like, he was kind of close with Duct Tape, but it never panned out, and then he does become genuinely, like, love and attracted to Blackjack and is able to have sex with her, so I don't know if it's necessarily, like, he's gay, but Blackjack's the exception, if he's bi, but it's mostly, like, I'm not a hundo, but, like, he is very attracted to this dude. Glory is the only one who's not, which to me is really funny, because when you get to part 4, she's the only one to actually sleep with him. Like, I don't know, I just find that kind of funny. The OIA is mentioned for the first time, and the assassination attempt is brought up as well. I believe it was mentioned in Trust when they talk about Big Macintosh dying, like how he was like died a hero and shit. I think they mentioned it. If not, this is the first time the assassination attempt is specifically mentioned. We also get Marigold mentioned again. And again, like, rereading it and knowing who this person is, I'm like, okay, they are... Somber, I think, is doing a good job of establishing, like, the Twilight Sparkle bloodline. because we mentioned her and her filly in trust, and like you went up to the stable just as Blackjack came out of the stable, so you know where they went. This also is introducing the space program. They mentioned that she had a failed physical for PH, which I'm assuming then that's just Project Horizon or Horizons, and she has another like medical, and that gets waived. And they mention her standing next to like a missile. So the way I interpret all of this is, so the reason she failed that first medical is probably because she was pregnant, because she was the surrogate for Twilight's kid. The missile is probably a rocket, because that was her thing, is like she wanted to go to space. And when it comes to Project Horizons, because there is a real world Project Horizon, and I don't know if it was like an actual thing or if it's like a conspiracy theory, but what Project Horizon was, it was about putting a base on the moon. And when we actually get to the moon later, we see there is in fact a moon base. I don't remember if in universe the moon base was the initial plan, and then as Golden Blood started getting more, justifiably so, because Luna's a fucking piece of shit in this story, but paranoid and fearful of Luna, and also becoming aware of the Eater and all of its bullshit, he's like, okay. Originally, I just wanted to see if we can make like a moon base, like if shit goes bad, we can escape. I don't know if we deserve that anymore, and we need contingency, so instead I'm gonna make a fucking star cannon to shoot a star into the city and wipe out all life on Earth. So I don't remember if it was like, yeah, she wanted to go to space and that was to set up the cannon, or if it was let's make a moon colony and then, okay, the moon colony is now the cover story, if the moon colony was always the cover story. I don't exactly remember the weeds there, but we are at least setting up the space program to some degree. And again, I mentioned of old PH. I did mention there is a memory orb used. It is the first time one happens, so it's, again, I don't remember when Blackjack uses that one with Big Macintosh. I thought that was like super early. I mean, in 80 chapters, anything in book 1 is still early. Maybe it does. I dead ass, like I thought it was like chapter 2 or 3, but okay. In the orb, we get to meet Garnet for the first time, which is interesting because she's someone I remember but don't really remember. I know she's part of the OIA. I think she was a director's assistant. I don't know if the director was Horse, if it was Golden Blood, because Golden Blood has a few. I think Garnet is one. Echo at one point was one. I think Eclipse was her name, which was Luna in disguise. Just like, I just want to know what the fuck is going on here in the OIA. There might have been another assistant, I don't remember, aside from like his direct underlings like Zodiac and True Blood and all of them. Sorry, I don't know what I was trying to say. Okay, so Garnet, I think she was one of them. I remember you get to see her death, and I think what happened was like the bombs were coming down and she was like getting sick, and she was trying to get into Red Doubt, which was like the super shelter, I guess the super vault, and I think Red Doubt actually goes to like the Bat Pony dimension, because that's a thing, and she wasn't able to get in, and I think she also got Project Party Pooped by Som, or Som like watched her die. It was something like that. I don't exactly remember, but we do get to see her for the first time. There's a mention of Fluttershy not like, they're talking about kids, and the kids in stasis, and Fluttershy's like, hey, I know kids, it's okay. Cheerleader's like, no, you like kids. I know kids. You've never even had one. And it's like, oh my god, I can't believe I said that. Because if I'm remembering correctly, Fluttershy and Golden Blood had a baby, and True Blood, I think, like, did the operation and the delivery, and then told them it was a stillbirth, which, like, broke Fluttershy, actually affected Golden Blood. But in reality, he kept the kid for himself. He's like, look, this is the child of a ministry mayor and an element of harmony and the director of the OIA. This is a good thing to have in my pocket just in case. And then that kid grows up to be Whisper. So I'm like, Whisper's not mentioned at this point, but it is like a big picture moment of like, oh, okay, like I I kind of know what they're alluding to here and where that goes. I think that's just fun and neat. And like I said, Blackjack has a new perk. It's like, you're great with kids. I wonder how long that's gonna last. Probably about 40 chapters or so. Somewhere around there. So that's that. Getting into the kill count, I counted 89. Because like I said, because of the skin being sewn onto the robot bodies, like I'm assuming there's a robot body for all of the 40 kids. And that skin had to come from somewhere. Essentially, I'm counting the 40 twice. They did a kill for those and actually killing them at the end. There's the severed head that rolls down. There's a dissected corpse that I believe is separate from the head. Maybe not. There's the skinned body with Mr. Needles. There's the four of the Tea Party. There's the one in the tutu. There's, and then Nurse Renhard. I'm not counting the Enclave ponies from the biomedical team, because my understanding is that those are the bodies they find throughout the chapter. So those I think I would straight up be counting twice. So I believe it's 89. Blackjack's is at 40, and her total at this point of the story is 68. That's, for 6 chapters, especially because she killed no one in the last chapter, that's essentially 68 over the course of 5 chapters. That's what, an average of like 13, almost 14 a pop. That's fucking bananas. And as for the catchphrase counter, I actually have something to add. Still no Annie up, still no I'm not an executioner, and still no security saves ponies. But, not once, not thrice, but twice, we do get our instances of I am not a smart pony. And on top of that, there's another bit, like as she's saying it, where she refers to herself as the not smart pony. I'm like, it's not line for line the catchphrase, but I think it's close enough. It's her saying, because the reason I didn't really count the like security we save ponies is because she's not actually saying it. It's something she's reading. I don't think that counts. It's not the exact wording, but it's the character, and it's close enough that I'm gonna count it. So I'm not a smart pony went from 0 uses to 3. So, all right, catchphrase counter, we're back on. So that's play. I don't know when I'll read chapter 7. That might be probably not later today. It might be tomorrow or Monday. We'll get to it when we get to it. But that was play.